already.
Yes. You
As
were
it
saying?
relates to the quiz, but here, Mr.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Sir,
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
as it relates to the yes, as it relates to the quiz, whenever I click the link and I'm not seeing it,
As in, when you log on to Google Classroom, then you click it, you're not seeing it.
you have to have Google Classroom apps on your phone.
You don't have to use the app, but you can use a browser like Google Chrome or the Chrome browser is the best one to actually use, right? Because it's part of the whole Google thing. So what you can do, just do it from Play Store, just
I'm not
download the Chrome browser and use that one to log on,
the
go to class. Yeah. So once you
what
Chrome, yeah,
Chrome browser.
yeah, Chrome, Chrome, right?
Okay.
So once you log on to Chrome, then you'd go to classroom.google.com. I think I posted that instruction in the group. Once you go to
So, sir,
classroom.google.
did you did
Yes,
you did you send did you
repeat.
send the quiz? Did you send a quiz?
Yes, it's in the Google Classroom.
Seriously?
Yes. Why you weren't a
Yeah.
part of the class Monday?
Yes, I was.
Yes, I remember I talked about it. I said there would be a quiz.
With
Yeah. Huh?
stages and so on. I was.
Repeat that?
Yes, sir. You said that there would be a quiz, but I searched the group too and I couldn't find that quiz either.
Exactly. I don't see.
Really,
So
it's right here. See it here, storage. If you look right here, storage quiz, input output device quiz. Did you look right here? See quiz, input output device
Sir,
quiz.
maybe you could just go over how
Huh?
to
Oh,
access this then.
right. Yes. So I'm doing it
I have
now.
no idea.
Right. So you'd go to
To inside
classroom.
of this classroom.
All right. So you'd go to classroom.google.com. If you're using the browser, there's two ways to access it. You can use the app.
sir, is it that when I sir,
Yes.
I when I click on my Google Classroom, would I click on create or join your first class? I would press on the plus there.
You wouldn't click create. Create if you want to create a class to teach. Where you join, then you'd put in the class code.
You press. I don't see where I don't see try another account.
Um, I don't know if you want. All right.
I
Um,
go to there to get. I see classes. So would I go in classes? Because
y-
I have the actual Google Classroom download on my phone already.
oh, so you have
Or
the
should I
app.
able to
Okay, so you
download the
have the
Chrome
app. All
browser as
right.
you said?
Slow down a little. So you have the app, right? So you have the app. So there's two ways to
Yes.
access the
Uh-huh.
classroom. You can use the browser or you can use the app. So if you're using the app, once you open the app,
Yeah.
then you sign in your email and password if it asks you for it. Now, once you're signed in,
Because as I tell you, sir, it just said try another account. So where I see that, should I able to put in my account in there if and that's the account I have there.
you want to share your screen now and try it so I can see what you're talking. You want to do it
Like
now? So yeah,
I'm getting to it.
repeat.
Account there. I share my screen
Yeah, share your screen. Just use the
because
WebEx
I'm actually use the WebEx and
and share your
okay, let
screen.
me go share da. So share contact, chat with everyone. Are you seeing my screen, sir?
No, I'm not seeing it.
I'm using my phone because I see chat with everyone. I know that's where I put in the chat. Find device, speaker, and that. Polling, setting, reclaiming oath, audio only, share contact. Would I press on that? That's the
No,
closest
you want
to
to look for share
screen I've
screen.
seen.
You're not seeing share
I
screen?
haven't seen it. No.
Alright, let me go on my phone so I can see exactly,
Change
tell you
audio
exactly.
connect. Screen.
Alright. This is how you do it. You click on the three dot, then you click share content, then you click share screen at the top. It will say WebEx would like to access your alert window to make it possible to share your screen in meeting. Then you press OK. So I'm seeing your screen now. You hearing me? You there, Shano? Shano? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm hearing you.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm hearing you.
Alright. So you need to click the back arrow to go back. You're in the settings. That's not where it's supposed to be. Click on the back arrow at the
Yes,
top of the
screen,
screen.
right?
Yes, I'm seeing your screen.
Arrow.
You're
You
in the
are
Google
saving
Classroom
the
app.
current. Yes.
Alright, just exit it
So I
all
would
that.
click on the X to come
Alright,
out and exit. Okay.
just close all that
This
because
is what I had.
I don't know what you're in. Right? So just okay, now I can see it. Now press the
Okay.
plus sign down the bottom. Alright, go back in it. Classroom.
Go back in it and
Right.
press the plus sign. That's what I was saying. Create or
Right.
join class.
Press the plus sign. Join class. You only
I
create
press
if
the
you
plus
are the
sign.
teacher. So you would never click create unless you plan to
Join the
teach a
class.
class. Right. So you click join class and
Join
then the
the
class
class.
code. Let me tell you the class code. Right. So you'd put in the class code. I had sent it in the group. So it would be, let me go back. RM. So you can type it in now. RM.
R M. Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing it typing unless there's a delay.
R M. Because I was writing into my book too.
Oh, okay, I get you. RM
Mm-hmm.
7J
R 7
7J. Yeah, 7J KJ
7 J K
KUR.
K again.
No, UR.
R M 7 J K U R.
UR.
Mm-hmm. And join.
Right. Right, so there it is.
Okay, I say
So
new material. Okay,
you'd go to
unit of
classwork,
pages, unit of storage. Okay, I would go to where, sir?
classwork. Look down the bottom.
Computer. Go to classroom, classwork. Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
everything about
And
the
then,
course is there. So that's where you'd go each day.
okay,
So if you scroll down, you see storage quiz and you see input and output device quiz.
okay. syllabus, input, output device, the computer system, secondary storage, primary storage.
All right, so you
Oh,
can
so where the quiz is
right there's the quiz in front, right there. Input and output device quiz and storage quiz.
so we would go ahead and do the quiz now, sir?
No, not now. You would do it in your own time.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so that was all right. All right, so you can stop
Yes,
sharing
sir.
your screen now. All right, so anybody else had any other
Okay.
problems joining?
Thanks very much.
You are
Okay.
welcome.
I do.
Yeah, so Sharika, well, let me see something. People. All right, so Sharika, notice I don't see you on the Google Classroom. Were you able to join? Sharika? Sharika, you there? Shavel, are you there? Shavel?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
I'm not seeing you in the
Yes, sir,
Google.
I'm here.
Right, so I'm not seeing you in the Google Classroom. Was there an issue joining?
I just uninstall the app and I'm reinstalling it.
Okay. Uh, all right, so we're gonna get into it right now. Sorry about the delays. All right, so just complete the quiz. Next class we'll go to the quiz, which is Monday. Hopefully by that time everybody will complete those activities so we can go through and I can know what troubles you're having.
Oh,
So,
good night, sir.
good night.
Sir, excuse me, sir. When I was doing the quiz, sir, one of the
Yeah.
quiz asked for like three answers, and I was putting every time I put in one, the other one jump off. It was a multiple choice, and it asked for
All right,
three.
slow
Like,
down a little bit, Keisha. You're going very fast. Repeat.
sir, there was a multiple choice question that asked for like three answers to it, and when I tried put every time I skip to the other one,
All right, so I'm not really hearing you so clear. Seems like it's the connection is breaking up, so it's hard to really understand what you're talking about. But what you can do, um, after class we can talk. You
put in
probably can.
another one.
No, all right, so I'm not hearing you so clearly. So
Okay.
what you can do, you can send me a voice note at the end of the class, and I look into whatever issue you may be having. All right, so today's topic is a continuation from last class, which we're gonna do units of storage, then we're gonna do computer specifications. All right, so we looked on the different type of storage devices last class. So can anybody recall some of the storage devices that we looked at? Anybody? Are you hearing me?
Flash memory
Yes, so flash memory, yes. What else?
and the primary storage,
And which one of the primary storage did we look at? What are the name of the primary storage?
RAM
Yeah, RAM and ROM. Yeah,
and ROM, RAM and ROM.
right. hmm What other storage devices can you recall?
A optical device, sir.
Yeah, which one are the optical devices? So there are three optical devices. Can you recall any one of the optical devices? So we have CD, we have DVD, and we have Blu-ray. Okay. All right. So this topic, this is a short continuation units of storage. We are just continuing from last class. So just like how you have, like if you're measuring length, you have meter, right? And if you're measuring liquid, you have liters. So before I just said meters, they both sound alike a while ago. I wondered if I said the same thing. So if you're measuring length, it would be meters. If you're measuring liquid, it would be liters, right? So when you're talking about measuring storage, we measure it using bits, right? So we're gonna talk about how you store data, right? So the smallest unit of storage is called a bit, right? A bit was formed from two words, binary and digit. Bit, binary, digit, right? So the binary digit can either be 0 or 1. Computers store data using a sequence of zeros and ones. So everything that you see on a computer is really a sequence of zeros and ones. Millions of zeros and ones. Alright, so the smallest unit of storage is a bit. Alright. After a bit we have nibble. Right? So 4 bytes is called a nibble. No, we don't really need to focus on a nibble because that's it's not really required for you to know that, right? But what is required for you to know is byte, right? So 8 bits makes 1 byte, BYTE, right? So 8 bits make 1 byte, all right? And a bit is the smallest unit, a byte is the smallest unit which can represent data or a character. So like every letter you see is really 1 byte. Like for example, this A it takes up 1 byte of space. Alright. And next thing that we don't need to focus on word. These are the next thing that we need to focus on. No, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte. Right. This is especially when it comes to storage devices, you need to understand what these things mean. Now, 1000 byte or 1024 to be exact is equal to 1 kilobyte. Now, kilo means 1,000, right? Kilo means 1,000, right? But usually they round it off and say 1,000. So if you say 1,000, you still get it right. But the exact number would be 1024. So 1024 bytes is equal to 1 kilobyte, right? 1024 megabyte sorry, 1024 kilobyte is equal to 1 megabyte. 1024 megabyte is equal to 1 gigabyte. 1024 gigabyte is equal to 1024 terabyte. 1024 terabyte is equal to 1 petabyte. Alright, so that's why if you have a 4 gig flash drive, you're kind of saying, if we approximate it, you're saying if you have a 4 gigabyte flash drive, you have 4000 megabyte flash drive. Right? So usually when we're talking about, like when if we're doing some conversions, so that it's easy to convert, we just X off the 24 and just say 1000, right? So if I say 4 gigabytes is equal to 4000 megabyte, it's still correct, even though it's the approximate, right? It's not the exact value, it's the approximate value. So that it's, because if we were to use the exact value, which would be, say, 4 times 1024, that would be 4096, right? And we may not remember that. So we just say 4000 approximated. Alright? So 1 kilobyte, alright, let's start from the beginning. The smallest unit of storage is called a bit. A bit can either be 0 or 1. Right? So, and bit came from two words, binary and digit. Right? So the note is there. So for the persons who want to make a note of it, right? And you must know these things, people. This is very important. That's why I'm taking my time with it. Because you must understand if we're dealing with technology and storage, because everything
Yes,
is
sir. I'm taking off it.
okay. Right. So everything is represented using bits, right? A group of 8 bits make 1 byte. So 8 bits, 1 byte, right? And then we get into the different technical terminologies, such as kilobyte. And now kilo means 1,000, right? Kilo means 1,000. So 1,000 bytes, right, equal 1 kilobyte. I remember we approximated some of the times, but the exact value would be 1024. So 1024 bytes is equal to 1 kilobyte. Mega mean million. When we talk about megabyte, we are talking about 1 million bytes. So 1 megabyte is equal to 1024
So you could
kilobyte.
scroll back down, sir.
Here, right there.
No, go back up. Go back up.
Okay,
I think I got
and
off that part. Yes, right here.
okay. So kilo mean 1,000, mega means million, giga mean billion, tera mean trillion, and how come off a trillion? Zillion, and peta means zillion. Alright, so just you only need to make note of bit and byte. Even though you may see nibble and word, but those are, you don't have to really focus on those. It's not on the syllabus. Alright, so you have those done already, right?
Oh, sir. What I don't hear what is a byte, sir.
A byte is a group of 8 bits, right? And when you see like each character, it is represented by a byte. So for example, if you see a single character such as A, that's 1 byte. It takes up 1 byte of space, right? Each individual character takes up 1 byte of space. So if you see like a H, that represents 1 byte of data. So let me give you an example. All right, so this one. So if you're looking at this, right? So a bit can either be a 0 or a 1. So 1 byte is a group of 8 bits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 1 byte. All right, so it represents a character. And the computer stores data in sequences of zeros and ones. So everything that even now on the screen, we're seeing words, but the computer is seeing zeros and ones. It's just translate all of this in a form that we can understand. But the computer represents all data using zeros and ones. So that's how they got the matrix. So if you ever watch the movie The Matrix, you notice everything is in zeros and ones. That's how the computer represents data. Even though you're seeing images, the computer is seeing zeros and ones. All right, so finish with this. So the next thing, and I want you to make note of this, is very important to know. So when we're representing storage, you'll see certain words, right? So when you see KB, KB means kilobyte, right? So kilobyte is basically 1024 bytes. You'll also see MB, which means megabyte. A mega mean million. So 1 million bytes, right? 1 megabyte is equivalent to 1024 kilobyte. If you put 1,000, it is still correct because you're allowed to approximate it. Gigabyte or GB. So when you say GB, I have a 4 gig flash drive, I have a 4 GB flash drive. So 4 gigabytes, really, you're saying you have a 4,000 megabyte or 4,096 megabyte flash drive, all right? Or 4 billion, 4 billion byte flash drive. When you say you have terabyte, if you say you have a 4 terabyte flash drive or 4 terabyte hard drive, you're saying you have 4 trillion bytes of storage, right? So tera means trillion. You don't have to know what that means, trillion, billion, or whatever. You just need to know, so okay, KB mean kilobyte, MB megabyte, GB gigabyte, TB terabyte, right? And know how to interchange them. So 1 GB, you know, so that is equivalent to 1024 megabyte, or if you say 1,000, you're still accurate. All right, so everybody made note of these already. I can move forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, one question, sorry.
Yes.
It says that 1 petabyte is equal to 1024 terabytes again. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah. So 1 petabyte is equivalent to 1024 terabytes, yeah. So you may not have heard about terabyte, it's a lot of storage, right? But those big
Okay.
organizations use petabyte, like Facebook that has millions of videos. They would use petabyte because they would have a lot of things to store. But say the average person who doesn't really store a lot of things, they might have a 500 gigabyte hard drive or a 1 terabyte hard drive or even a 2 terabyte hard drive. But when it comes to like 500 petabyte or 1 petabyte or a couple petabyte, and you have bigger storage than that. I think the highest one that I know is Zettabyte, XCTA. That's 1000 petabytes. Those big organizations use those type of storage. They have massive storage rooms that stores lots of data.
Okay, so that would be equal to a petabyte. Sorry, a terabyte would be equal to a petabyte.
No.
Cause
1024 terabytes is equivalent to 1 petabyte. Okay?
okay, sir, I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. All right, so we finished with this, right? So everybody get the concept of units of storage. So that's how those came about. So the typical hard drive nowadays is probably in the gigabytes to 1 terabyte. Because if you buy a computer, most likely it's gonna be between 500 gigabyte to 1000 gigabyte, and 1000 gigabyte is equivalent to 1 terabyte. All right, so now today's topic is computer specifications. All right, now before I even go into this topic, I want you to watch this intro video and then we're gonna go into it. All right, everybody hearing it, right?
No, sir.
You're not hearing anything?
No, sir.
All right, let me see. Share. All right. Share. Can you hear it now?
No, sir.
No, sir.
You're not hearing anything? You weren't hearing it before?
No, sir. Only seeing the picture.
Still not hearing anything.
All right. Well then I might if I'm gonna try one more time. If it doesn't work, then I'm just going to just go forward. Alright, so I'm go forward because I don't know. I'm not with the whole WebEx thing. I'm not 100% familiar with all the settings. And oh, I think I found it. I found it. Yes, I found it. Okay, good. Hearing it right?
Yes,
Hearing it?
sir.
Okay,
Do you have any idea of what is system specification? A system requirement specification, or SYRS, is a structured collection of information that embodies the requirements of a system. SRS, or Software Requirement Specification, should match the computer system specification so that the application could run well in your computer. Whenever you purchase software or hardware for your computer, you should first make sure your computer supports the system requirements. These are the necessary specifications your computer must have in order to use the software or hardware. For example, a computer game may require your computer to have Windows 7, a 2 GHz processor, 2 GB of RAM, a 1 GB graphics card, and 500 MB on hard disk space. If your computer does not meet all of these requirements, the game will not run very well or might not run at all. It is just as important to check system requirements for hardware devices. For example, if you buy a printer, the software installation has a specific requirement specification. If your computer system does not meet the SRS of the printer, this means your computer will be unable to recognize the printer. Most hardware and software products have the system requirements printed on the side or bottom of the product packaging. When you are shopping for computer software or hardware, it is a good idea to first find out exactly what your system's specifications are and write them down on a piece of paper. So what are the important information that you have to take note? This includes the operating system, the processor speed, memory, graphics card, hard disk space, and the input and output ports. By recording these specifications from your computer, you will be able to make sure your computer supports the products you are buying. In terms of installation, system specification is a big consideration in order for a computer to run and work properly for the most efficient way it could be. In broad terms, the performance of a computer depends on 4 factors: the speed and architecture of its processor, how much RAM it has, its graphics system, and its internal hard drive speed and capacity. Also of importance to most users will be the specification of its internet connection. Most computer users nowadays, particularly those working with a lot of photographs, music files, or videos, should also think about the most suitable storage devices they will need in order to keep and back up all of their valuable data. Let us go back to the 4 factors that determine the performance of a computer. The central processing unit is the brain of the computer. When buying a computer, you have to consider the processor speed and architecture. The speed of a computer's processor chip is technically known as its clock speed. It is measured in gigahertz, with the fastest modern processors currently running at up to 4.7 gigahertz. However, for most computing tasks, including web browsing, sending emails, word processing, and spreadsheet work, any processor running at 2 GHz remains perfectly sufficient. But for applications such as video editing, 3D graphics work, and for the majority of power users such as playing computer games, higher processor speed is highly required.
right. So that introduced this topic. So by watching this video, you'd have an understanding of, or kinda get what I'm going to talk about now. So now let's get into the lesson. No, well, let me wait till it loads. Everybody still seeing my screen, right? Seeing my screen? Hearing me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, so the topic
Yes.
is interpreting hardware specifications of a computer. Now, the reason why this topic is important is because you need to know what a computer can do in terms of its speed, the power, all the capabilities, so that it can perform the task that you want it to do. Now, I see many persons call me all the time and say, hey, I'm gonna buy a computer. Or they go in a store and then buy a computer and say it is slow or it doesn't have a lot of storage. Now, the problem is they didn't know what to buy. They didn't check out the specifications. They just went in and say, oh, it looks nice, I'm going to buy it. Or some person might say, what brand computer should I buy? No, you cannot buy a computer based off brand because it's really the same parts inside of it, right? But you need to know what kind of parts inside of it. No computer is better, no brand is better than none, because you have Toshibas that are better than Acers or Dell, and you have Dell or Acer that's better than Toshiba, because each of them have different types of computers. They have different specifications. Now, I've mentioned specification a lot. What is specification? What do we mean by specification? Right? So specification would be like the key components that make up a computer. So now when you're going to purchase a computer, you need to understand what are the key components that make up a computer, right? You have to understand what are the key components that make up a computer. And once you start to understand the key components that make up a computer, then you can actually make good buying decisions, right? So the specification is usually provided by retailers to help buyers decide which PC and what combination of features they need. So whenever I'm going to purchase a computer, for example, if I go to eBay right now and I want to buy a laptop computer, uh, it, so I would, one, it depends on the price that I'm willing to pay, because every computer, the price is different. The better the specification is, the higher the price, right? So let's look at this right here. So cheap Dell Latitude 14.1 inch screen. So when you say 14.1, they're talking about the screen. Core 2 Duo, they're talking about the type of processor that's inside of it. 4 gigabyte RAM. How much random access memory do they have? Right? And remember, the more RAM you have, the more programs and data that you can open and use at one time. 500 gigabyte hard drive. Once you say HDD, it means hard disk drive. This has to do with how much data can your computer store. What do you want your computer to do, right? Windows 10, that's operating system, right? So if we click on one, so it gives you a little rundown, right, of the specification. Some of these companies, they also give you the ability to choose what you want, choose the specification. So you can choose more or less to suit your needs, right? You can choose a specification, and you can even further come down and they tell you, look at the specs, hard drive, RAM, right? They tell you about the computer. Some of the specifications, some companies, they don't really tell you a lot about it, especially depending on who is selling it. But let's take a look at another one. Like, look at this now, Chromebook. Now, many people make the mistake of buying Chromebooks because it's cheap, but it's not gonna really last you unless your phone book would be like a big cell phone, basically, because it's not really powerful, right? $79. So you look at this and say, oh my, look at this laptop, it looks nice, right? And you buy it. But what can this laptop do? That is the question. So a Chromebook is basically like a cell phone. So if you look at this, you notice the apps kind of look like how it stay up on your phone, right? It doesn't have a lot of storage. Look, 2 gigabyte of RAM, 16 gigabyte memory, 16 gigabyte. My flash drive bigger than that, right? My phone storage bigger than that. Chrome OS, that's like a mobile operating system, right? You can't install anything on it. You only can install like Android applications, right? So understanding the specification that come with a computer can really save you money. Like look at this, 16 gigabyte storage. If you look in your phone, most of your phones probably have that amount of storage. So you wouldn't want a laptop with so little storage, right? So understanding the computer specification can really save you some headache. When you're ready to use it, it can actually do the job that you want it to actually do. All right. So let's dive deeper into this topic. All right. So now, what are the key components that you would look on? The first thing and one of the most important things that we're going to look on is the CPU, the central processing unit, or the brain of the computer, right? Now, if you have a fast brain, that means you have a fast computer. Now, the CPU speed or the type of CPU is not the only thing that determines how the computer performs, but it's a big one, right? Now, the two features of a CPU that you need to be aware of are its speed and type, right? So you have different types of processors and you have different speed of the processors, all right? The two companies that actually make processors are Intel and AMD. So you have to know, okay, do I want an Intel processor or do I want an AMD processor? Intel is more popular than AMD, right? Because Intel market their products more than AMD. So as the brain of the computer, the CPU determines how fast instructions can be carried out. So that's the important thing about the speed. The faster the speed, the faster instructions can be carried out, right? Sometimes they call it the clock speed, right? So every time the clock ticks, one instruction is carried out. So the faster the clock ticks, the more instructions can be carried out. So the processor speed of most computers today are usually measured in megahertz or gigahertz. When we talk about mega means million. Hertz have to do with speed. So megahertz means million instructions per second. All right, megahertz. So the computer processes 1 million instructions per second. Giga means billion, right? So gigahertz, remember hertz have to do with speed, Hertz. All right, and so you'll see M8Z or GHz for short. So 1 gigahertz means the computer can process 1 billion instructions per second. All right, so when you're looking for a computer, what is the speed? Usually anything above 2 gigahertz is usually good, but it all depends on the type of processor. Because a i7 processor, you have different type of processor, by the way. Yeah, the first set of Intel processors were really Pentium. I don't know, Pentium has been advertising for a long time. Or maybe you're watching TV and they say Intel Pentium processor inside. Right? Those are old processors. So I would not buy a Pentium processor. I wouldn't buy a computer with a Pentium processor. But it all depends. Suppose the person can only afford a Pentium or they want a cheap laptop. Then you can purchase a Pentium processor. Because those are cheap, but they're not really fast. Right? If it's somebody who just wants to just browse and do basic stuff, fine. Buy a Pentium processor or a Celeron, right? But if it's somebody who want to do a lot of tasks, constantly using their computer, You want to get a i3 or a i5 or a i7 or a quad core, right? So Pentium and Celeron only uses one core, right? After Pentium and Celeron, then came the dual core or the Core 2 Duo laptop processors, or desktop processors, I should say, right? Then after dual core came quad core, which means it can do 4 things at once. So Pentium and Celeron can only do one thing at a time. Then came Core 2 Duo and Dual Core. Those can do 2 different things at a time, 2 separate tasks at the same time. Then came Quad Core or Core 2 Quad, right? Which means it can do 4 things at a time. Then came i3, then i5, then i7, right? i7, it depends. Some of them are different. You have some that do has like 6 cores. It's basically kind of like 6 mini processors inside of it, right? Some of 8. So it all depends upon the type of i7 or i3 or i5, right? So knowing that it can really make a big difference when you're buying a computer. So if you want a computer to do video editing, you have to have a good processor like i7 or i5 with good speed or quad core, right? But if you just want to browse, or is you're buying it for, say, a primary school student or somebody like that who doesn't really do much on it, you can buy a Pentium or Celeron, right? So it all depends on how fast you want the computer to perform. So the speed and the type for processors, very important. You have to know the speed and the type. Following me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And in your own time, you can always go over, log on to Google
Can you
Classroom.
please repeat that?
Repeat what exactly?
Oh, you're going to send the notes in the classroom?
It's already there. I'm working from the classroom. See it? This is the classroom. It's already there.
No, sir, that's not
Hmm?
what I'm asking is, you normally said that you're sending the notes after.
No, it's already there. This is the Google Classroom. It's already there. If you log in, you'll
Okay.
see it. Right. So I'm actually teaching from the classroom. So you can go on, just like how I'm going on now, you can go on and click on it, and you'll see it pop up. Right. So this topic, one of the most important topic you will go through. It will really help you to decide about buying a computer and knowing about computers. Give,
So you stop presenting.
hold on one sec. Give me a second. Um, Screen share. Okay. Yeah. PC specifications. All right. So back to this now.
So you're a little bit low.
Hold on one sec. How am I sounding now? Same? Hold on.
A little bit better.
Hold on. Okay. Still trying to get used to this WebEx thing. Honestly I prefer Zoom. I don't have no problem with Zoom. Zoom, I can control the settings easy. without no problem. But I guess the only way to master this is to use it. You hearing me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. So yeah, so I was talking about processor types before, right? So some common processor types be like Pentium, Core, Celeron. For AMD, would be like Athlon, Sempron,
But
Turion.
sir, you were giving where some notes MHZ.
Okay, hold on. All right. So you want to write this off? So this is what I was talking about, megahertz and gigahertz. You want to make a note of it? So it would
Yes,
be,
sir.
all right, so right here. So from right here, so it says the processor speeds of most of today's personal computers are measured in megahertz or gigahertz. Right. Can make a note of that. Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, and so the next thing we're gonna look at, so remember the takeaway for our processors, the main thing we look at are speed and type. All right, so for processor, speed and type. Now, main memory. Now, when you talk about main memory, we're talking about random access memory. All right, so we talk about random access memory, right? So main memory, random access memory. I remember this is a temporary type of storage, right? So once you open an application, it is opened in RAM. It's temporary. So main memory is used to store programs and data that are being used or are about to be used by the central processing unit or the computer. Right? So the main thing that we need to focus on when we're talking about main memory is its capacity, type, and speed. If you're just buying a computer, you want to know the capacity. Now, say you want to upgrade your computer, you need to know what type and the speed, right? So that's why they say, okay, my computer has 4 gig RAM, or 8 gig RAM, or 16 gig RAM. So the more RAM you have, the more programs and data you can open at one time. So that's why I can open a zillion tabs. I can open a zillion tabs on in Google Chrome, right? So I can open a zillion tabs in Google Chrome because I have enough memory to hold all those tabs that I keep open, right? So the more RAM you have, the more programs and data that you can actually store, right? So the capacity of a computer's memory determines the number of programs that it can hold at a time, which affects the performance of the computer. So two key components that affect the performance of a computer are the processor and the main memory, also called RAM. So if you have a fast processor, but little bit of RAM, your computer is going to be slow. If you have a slow processor and a lot of RAM, your computer is going to be slow. You need a good amount processor speed and a good amount of RAM to balance each other. All right. And when we talk about type, you have different types. You have DDR1, DDR2, DDR3, and stuff like that. Right? So if you're gonna say your computer memory stop work and you want to purchase one, or you have 4 gigabytes of RAM and you say, okay, that's too small, I need 8 or 16, and you're going to the store to purchase one, you need to know what type. They're gonna ask what type, which one you want, right? So you have to know what type of RAM that you want to purchase. And you can always check it out on your computer or Google the specs of your computer, or you can use certain software to tell you what type of memory is inside of it. So the program that I actually use to tell me about my computer is called CPU-Z. So if you open CPU-Z, it tells you about your computer. Okay, you can upgrade your processor, you can upgrade your memory. Nearly all the components of a computer can be updated, especially for desktop computers. For a laptop, it's a little bit harder, right? Like the hard drive can be updated, the solid state, certain components, but it depends on the laptop. Right, so I have an Intel Core i7 processor, right? Memory, if I want to know what type of memory I have, I click this tab. Well, usually it tells me all the information about the memory, but I guess this program needs to be updated. So I guess I need to update it, but I'll update it another time. Right, so it needs to be updated. So maybe that's why it's not showing. Usually it shows me everything about the memory, everything about the motherboard, but I'll do that another time. Right, so the speed is the next thing that you look at when it comes to RAM. Not the most important things, but it's very important because the faster the memory performs, the faster the computer will perform, because the faster it will get information from the computer. The next important thing that we look on when we're going to buy a computer is the hard disk or solid state. Hard disk is what? Is the typical, the common type of secondary storage device used in a computer. So the hard disk stores all your programs and data in the computer, right? And remember, I showed you what a hard disk looks like, right? So this is actually a hard disk. It contains moving parts, some disk inside of it spinning. Now, this is gradually being replaced by solid state. Solid state has no moving parts, right? It's much faster than a hard drive, but it's much more expensive. Now, when it comes to a hard drive, there are three things that we look on, just like RAM. We look at the capacity, how much data can it store. We look at the speed, how fast will it perform, and we look at the type. Because you have different types of hard drive. There's two types. Even though there is IDE and there's SATA. IDE is the old type of hard drive. You don't really find them much anymore, but you still need to know the types. And when we talk about hard drive speed, speed is measured in revolutions per minute. Because remember, I said, that inside a hard drive is some disks that are spinning, right? So to measure the speed of the hard drive, it is measured in revolutions per minute, right? So the faster the spinning, or the RPM, the faster the more, or the faster data will be transferred from the hard disk to the computer. Alright, so those are the key elements. There's many more things that we can actually look at, which we'll do so shortly, right? But before we go any further, let's look at this hardware specification right here. So usually when you're going to purchase a computer, you're going to see something like this. So Intel Pentium 4, who can tell me, what do you think that is? Intel Pentium 4, what is that describing? Shauna, Keisha, Chevelle, Sharika? Yes. Intel Pentium 4, what is that describing?
Yes, sir. The brand of the computer?
No.
Is it the processor, sir?
Yes, it's a processor. Remember, there are two companies that make processors. We have Intel and
Okay, sir.
AMD. So that's how you're gonna know when you see Intel or AMD. That's how you're gonna know, right? So the Intel is a company that makes the processor. Pentium 4 is a type of processor. 64-bit is the word size. And when we talk about word size, we talk about how much data it can process at one time. Back in the day, they usually have 32-bit processors, but nowadays they just really have like 64-bit processors. Right? So, but you don't really need to be concerned about that as much, right? Don't need to really be concerned about this as much. But the only important thing about this 64-bit is if you have an old computer. The older computers use 32-bit processors. That means it can only processes 4 instructions at one time. 64-bit means it processes 8 instructions at one time, because 64 divided by 8 is 8. Because 8 bits make 1 byte. Right? But you don't really have to concern yourself about this. The main things you need to concern yourself about when it comes to processor is who make it, the type, and the speed. right? So the speed of this computer is 3.6 gigahertz. 3.6 GHz gigahertz. Right, so this is how fast it is moving. So it is processing 3.6 billion instructions per second. Yes, per second. That's fast. Now the second line. Who can tell me what is this talking about? It's okay to guess, people. Just guess if you know. What do you think it's
The
talking about?
storage space, sir.
What storage
The
space?
storage
What storage? Remember,
space.
there are different types of storage. Which one you're talking about?
This says what? 2 gigabytes. I don't know the
RAM.
sir.
Yeah, it's
Trust
talking
me, I
about
don't know.
RAM. It's talking about, look, if you look at the entire line, don't just look at the first part or read the whole line. What the line say? 2 GB, 533 MAZ, SD, RAM. That's the giveaway. Sometimes they don't put that. Sometimes they just say 2 GB, 533 MAZ, right? Not all the time they put SD RAM. But this is the giveaway, right? This is the main memory or random access memory, all right? So when we say 2 GB, what is this talking about?
Two gigabytes, sir.
2 gigabyte of what? 2 gigabyte. What do you mean by 2 gigabyte? Like what general topic that would come under? So it's the capacity, how much it can store. So 2 gigabyte of RAM.
Unit, sir.
No, I was saying
Right.
yes. So remember when you say GB or MB or any one of those things, it is
You say
describing how much data it can store, the capacity, right? Right? So that's very important to look at. One of the most important things when you're actually gonna buy memory, capacity. How much can it store? So the higher the capacity, the more data it can store. So if you're gonna purchase a computer, look for like 4 gig upwards. Ideal would be 8. 8 gigabyte of RAM would be ideal. If you have a plan for the future. Or 16. Now the third line, 160 GB SATA HDD 7200 RPM. What is this talking about? It's okay to guess, or just look at it. When you look at it, you can figure it out.
Yeah, something we do with the revolution. How fast to get
Alright,
information.
no, what I'm asking, that line, what device is it talking about?
High definition, sir.
The hard drive. So it's talking about the hard drive, right? So how would you know? Once you say HDD, hard disk drive, that's what you would really look for. HDD, which means hard disk drive, okay? So 160 would be the capacity of the hard drive. SATA would be the type of hard drive, and 7200 RPM would be the speed of the hard drive. 7200 revolutions per minute. Okay? And this explains it, right? So if you're going over this document, it really explains all of that right there. Our next set of important things that we look for when we are purchasing computer is the ports. What type of ports does it have? So we use ports to connect other devices, right? We use ports to connect other devices. So that's one of the things I look for when I'm purchasing a computer. I look how much USB port does it have? Does it have a HDMI port to plug on my TV or monitor? Does it have a VGA port? Does it have a network port? Does it have audio? What ports does it have? So you use ports to connect other devices. Like these are ports. So if you look at the back of your computer or on your computer or on your laptop, whether desktop or laptop, I should say, you will see these ports. So you have different ports to connect different devices. Alright, so when you're purchasing a computer, you have to know what ports does it have. Or if I want to say you have a printer, you buy one printer and you want a laptop for work it. You have to look what kind of card the printer use. So when you buy your computer now, you just plug on and you're good to go. Alright? Even though nowadays they're making USB port the standard. USB port the standard. That's why USB means universal serial bus. Right? That means you work with anything. That's why you can plug your phone in your computer, your printer, your camera, everything. USB. That's how they start to make it now. Alright? Universal serial bus. So ports are very important, and you have different type of ports. So we have parallel ports. Those are the older type of printer ports, right? We have serial ports used for certain type of printer and modems. USB is the standard now. Everything is used in USB. We have firewire ports used to transfer video and devices from like your cameras or imaging devices. We have expansion slots. So we have expansion slots. Now with your expansion slots, let me show you. Now, if you're seeing my screen, you will see some little empty spaces right here. So this is a motherboard, by the way. If you look on this motherboard, let me see if I can make this bigger. Alright, yeah, much better. Now if you look at this has different port that can hold different devices. This is called your AGP port, usually for graphics card. Right, so if you're the type of person that does video editing, video designing, or play powerful games, then you can buy an AGP video card, or you can buy a PCI video card, or a device. Say you want to buy a TV card, so you can watch TV on a computer. You can buy a TV card, so you can using these ports. You can purchase additional devices to attach to your computer to do additional things. Right? So you plug on the ports on the computer. So the two main type of ports that we use nowadays is AGP and PCI. But most computers, the new type of computers, they're just using PCI and PCI Express. The older type of ports like AGP, they're not using those anymore because they're outdated. So they're really just using this PCI, this one, PCI and PCI Express. So you can connect your sound card, your network card, video card, whatever device you can actually connect to do additional functionalities. Now let's take a look at some more PC specifications. All right. Now, the first line, usually the first line on a specification usually talks about the processor, right? The second line usually talk about the memory. And when we talk about memory, we talk about random access memory. The third line usually talks about the hard drive, hard disk drive, or solid state drive. So that's the secondary storage of the computer that stores all your files, all your programs and data, right? Usually they mention CD or DVD. Most times they do, but nowadays they hardly put these on, but some of the times they do. Right, then after that, we have the type of monitor. So this is a 17-inch monitor, and the monitor is actually very important. When I was purchasing my previous computer, I bought a 17-inch monitor because I did a lot of video editing and graphic design. So I wanted a big monitor so that I can see what I'm doing. But now, I don't want a 17-inch monitor. I bought a 14-inch monitor because it's easier to carry around and it's lighter, right? Because I don't do video editing anymore, so I don't need 17-inch. All right, and sometimes they list out the graphics card and the operating system that's on it. So examples of operating system would be like your Windows 7, your Windows 10, 8, Windows Vista, Windows XP, Windows 11, your Mac operating system, your Android operating system, iOS, Chrome OS, Linux, Unix. We will go through when we reach software. We're gonna do a topic called software. When we do that, you will learn about the different type of operating systems and so forth. Well, let's talk about the same thing that we explained a while ago. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I basically went through all of these, so yeah, you can look at this for additional information when you're ready. Now let's look at some more computer specifications. And by the way, if you want more information, you can always watch this video. I'm not gonna play these videos. Let me just take a quick look at it.
Hey hackers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine, and today can run applications. And so this is not the internet. This is how fast Photoshop or Word or email or things like that that are local on your computer. It's how fast you can use them.
Let me see. I might play this
If
one.
you work with computers, you've likely heard.
All right, this is just a 7-minute video. I'm gonna play this one. I like this one. I'm gonna play this one.
Heard
Can you
terms
hear
like
my screen?
RAM,
Can you
hard
hear?
drive, and processor mentioned by tech support or others
Yes,
Are you
who are
hearing?
interested in
Okay.
what goes
Yes,
on
sir.
inside of a computer's case. If you've always wondered what the various components of your computer are for, but have never really had the time to look into it, then this video is just for you. While each one of these components is complex enough to spend a lifetime learning about, I'm going to give a very broad and general overview. A typical desktop computer comes down to these 7 essential parts: case, power supply, motherboard, CPU, RAM, hard drive, and graphics cards. These are the fundamental parts of any desktop computer. It may seem daunting at first, so let's separate these into 2 categories: simple ones and the more complex ones. For starters, let's look at the case. The case is nothing more than a big hunk of plastic that houses everything else. Some of them have more or less physical space, some of them have different parts where you can put screws in or this or that, but at the end of the day, all the case really does is provide a nice enclosed system for everything else. Next up, we have the power supply. This part of your computer, almost always located on the bottom, is the part that plugs into the wall and provides all of the other parts with the electricity needed to do their thing. You can think of it as an extremely advanced AC adapter. The last of the simple parts to mention is the motherboard. The motherboard is a wide and flat circuit board that all of the other components plug into. It's the part that lets all of these components send electrical currents, composing data, between each other. While not particularly expensive, the motherboard is arguably the most important component because without it, you'd have nowhere to put anything else. So that's it for the simple components. Now let's move on to the more complex parts, the ones that deal with data. The four main components to keep in mind here are CPU, RAM, hard drive, and graphics card. Now first things first, I'm going to establish some terminology. Keep in mind that CPU is also known as the Central Processing Unit, or processor. These terms all refer to the same thing. They're completely interchangeable. RAM stands for Random Access Memory and is often referred to as just memory. A hard drive is often referred to as a disk drive or storage. And a graphics card is also known as a GPU or graphics processing unit. For this explanation, I'll be using the terms CPU, RAM, hard drive, and graphics card. So let's start with the CPU. The CPU is where your computer does things. It isn't really capable of storing very much data at all, but it's very good at doing things with data. Quickly reading it, arranging it, doing the type of quick and massive calculations needed to run your programs. This is where most of your programs are essentially run from. It's often referred to as the brain of the computer. I personally don't like this description because really your entire computer is just a brain. It's just the center part of your computer's brain. Basically everything that happens in your computer goes through your CPU at some point. Now let's talk about RAM and hard drive at the same time because they have a very unique relationship, which is probably why people often confuse the two. Your hard drive is where all of your data is stored. When your computer tells you you're running low on space, it's because your hard drive is almost full. All of the data that makes up your videos, pictures, documents, project files, or the 3D worlds and models that make up a game are all stored here. While hard drives can store lots of data, they're relatively bad at accessing that data quickly. Everything is accessed through a tiny little wire here, and because most hard drives are made up of spinning disks, your hard drive isn't going to be able to constantly give your CPU the information it needs to run certain programs. That's where RAM comes in. RAM is another form of storage. It stores the exact same kind of data as your hard drive, but RAM sacrifices storage space for nearly instant accessibility. Unlike your hard drive, which sends all of its data through a tiny little thin wire, your RAM is arranged in these long, thin sticks that insert into your motherboard. Think about a storage unit. If you have a massive warehouse with only a thin doorway, it's going to be difficult to get in, find what you need, and get out if it's kind of spread all over the place. You'll have to go through a tiny door. But if you have a long, wide storage shed that's got a big, massive garage composing an entire side of it, you won't be able to store as much, but things are significantly easier to get to. Typically, if your computer has 1,000 gigabytes of storage space in your hard drive, it's likely got about 16 gigabytes worth of RAM. Here's where you put the stuff you own but you aren't currently using, and this smaller one is where you put the stuff that you are using and need to be able to get in and out of quickly. When you run a program or a project file, your CPU identifies what parts of data are needed for that program to run, it pulls them from your hard drive, and then it stores them in your RAM sticks for quick accessibility. This is why when you start a new level of a game, for instance, it has to load. Anytime you see loading, it's loading the data that composes that level from your bulky hard drive into your RAM. From a user's perspective, just follow this rule of thumb. RAM allows you to run intensive programs, while disk space allows you to have more of these programs installed. It also allows you to have more of the data they're referencing, whether it be pictures, videos, or mods. And finally, we get to the graphics card. With all of the calculations going on in your computer to turn a bunch of numbers that basically come down to ones and zeros into a constantly updated three-dimensional world, the final and most important and arguably most difficult step is to display that on your monitor. It's possible for your motherboard to do this alone, but it's not going to look good, and it's certainly not going to be able to do much. Your graphics card is essentially an entire computer in and of itself. dedicated to the sole task of figuring out what pixels need to light up on your screen, in what color, and at what time. If you were playing a game that had a very busy and high texture world with lots of models and different angles and colors, your CPU is the thing that creates that world. It knows where the stuff is, and it does so with data that's been stored in your RAM, which was loaded out of your hard drive, but it's your graphics card that figures out what it's supposed to look like based on where you're standing in the world. Without getting too off topic here, if you're somebody who likes math, I highly recommend you look up fast inverse square root, which is directly related to how three-dimensional worlds calculate perspectives. So that pretty much sums it up. There are other components worth mentioning, such as cooling systems or internal wireless cards, but really those are extras. So to summarize what I talked about so far, the case stores everything in a physical box, the power supply gives electricity to what needs it, the motherboard is the body that everything plugs into, the CPU does everything, RAM stores data that is needed for quick access, hard drives store everything that you have installed and the data that goes along with those programs, while the graphics card figures out how it's all supposed to look on your monitor.
Okay, people, so I hope you learned a lot from that. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so
Yes,
move
sir.
on. Each
Yes, sir.
person tell me one takeaway from the video, just one. Alright, what you learned. So each person, what did you learn?
The CPU,
Yes. What about the CPU?
isn't that tell you about when you're playing games and the different movements and colors and such
No,
like that?
well, that would be the GPU, the graphics processing unit, the graphics card. Mhm. Alright, so what else? Well, who was that talking? That was Keisha a while ago?
Oh, no.
Oh, Shauna. So Keisha, what have you learned from the video that you just watched?
I was looking at the video, but I was more thinking about the port, just
The
to
what?
divert the port, the parallel port, sir.
Okay, the different ports that connect the computer. Okay. Alright. Chevelle?
The one and the serial one, like, sir. I'm not quite understanding it.
What you didn't understand the video, Keisha?
Yeah, the video, but I'm just diverting a little. The parallel one is for like they they use it on scanners and
Alright. You see, you don't have to worry about that because those are outdated. They don't make them anymore because they just make USB port to fit everything. But I just teach you because you still can find computers with those ports.
okay,
Right.
okay, sir.
Yeah. Chevelle?
Yes.
The one takeaway from
I learned about the CPU, the central processing unit,
what about it?
and my takeaway is that it's very low on data storage.
Yeah, but what does
So
it?
used for doing things with data.
Yeah. So it doesn't
Burn
really
up the computer.
yeah. So you're correct right there. So it doesn't really the CPU doesn't store anything much, but it does a lot of calculations when it comes to data. So it manipulates data and do a lot of calculations with the data. Sharika?
Okay.
Yeah. Sharika? All right. So the main things that you actually look for on a computer, the main components would be the motherboard, then the central processing unit or CPU, then the random access memory, RAM, then the hard drive or solid state drive, and then the graphics processing unit, the graphics card. And then you would have the ports or other components depending on what you want to do, right? But those are the main
So you're
components.
breaking up. You're breaking up a little.
My internet just fluctuated a little bit. Seems like I'm getting a little bit poor signal. So hopefully it comes up back soon, but I'm just getting one bar. I don't know why. And I have not moved from where I am. Not sure what happened. But it will come. Oh, it's fluctuating. I don't know why. It's fluctuating. I don't know what's happening. Alright. Now let's go back to some question and answering time. Am I sounding a little bit better now? Or it's still breaking up?
You're sounding fuzzy. Hearing some of the word and not getting everything. I don't know about the rest of students, but this is what I'm getting from my side.
Yes, yes, sir. I agree with you.
Alright, let me hold on one sec.
All right, I get you better now. You sound better now.
Oh, okay. Alright, yeah, the Wi-Fi just come up back. The Wi-Fi looked like I don't know what happened with it a while ago. Okay. Alright. So what I want each person to give me now, see now we just talked about specification. So now it's question and answering time. Alright. Well, before I go there, let me go one more example and then we can go into it. So this is another example of a specification, right? So the first line will always talk about the processor, right? So processor speed is measured in gigahertz. So this is 3.2 gigahertz. This has 8 cores, Intel Xeon processor, right? And they're saying that it has a turbo boost feature that can go up to 4.2 gigahertz.
Sir, you're breaking up a little.
Well, not sure. The connection might be a bit fuzzy. So everybody else, it's breaking up, breaking.
Yes, sir.
Like we're actually getting some of the words and like the word want to come out, but it just come out a little bit and not get the full word from you.
Oh, it seemed like the internet speed dropped, right? The internet seemed like the speed dropped. So, unless you want me to continue, we can continue Monday.
All right, hearing you better now.
Okay. It seems like the internet is fluctuating. We will continue this topic Monday because we have a little bit more to discuss in regards to computer specifications. So, if you would like, if it's getting so fuzzy that you cannot hear me, it would be best if I continue Monday. But if you can hear me, the next line talks about the amount of random access memory. So this has 32 gigabyte of RAM. The speed is 2.666 megahertz or 2.6 gigahertz, right? And they're saying that this can be configured up to 128 gigabyte. So you can put more in it up to 128 gigabyte. It has 1 terabyte solid
Sure.
state. Yes?
So what all of what you're saying here, what are you coming off of? Could you give me the heading
Alright.
what you're basing off of here?
So we're just discussing another computer specification, right? Say, look at this. This costs £4,899. Now, if you're gonna buy a computer, you need to understand what are these specifications? Because this is what you're gonna see. So I'm explaining what each line is, right? So remember I said before that the first line is generally the processor, the second line is generally the memory, the third line is generally the secondary storage, right? So I'm just going through it again. So this is just describing a specification of a computer. Understand?
Kind of not hearing you. That's the problem with it.
Oh, okay. All right. What we can do, cause it's pointless if I'm talking and you're not hearing, because it seems like the internet is fluctuating, and we only have 10 minutes remaining anyways. So we can continue next class, okay? Okay, people? Hello? Hearing me?
Okay, sir. But before you go, I don't know if I'm going to hear you clearly. You said we could actually go about and doing the quiz at any time, right?
Yeah, you can log on and do it anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good night. So we'll continue Monday.
Thanks, and the same to you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, good night, sir.
All right. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Yeah.